When I've looked at Harley Davidson versus Indian in the past, I've always taken the approach of trying to tell you which one is going to give you the best bang for your buck, which one has the better aesthetics, which one is the best bagger on the road, for instance, or any number of different variables, but I've always tried to look at it from a consumer's point of view. And today I'm going to do that as well, but it seems like the gap has actually closed significantly with Harley versus Indian. Today I'm going to tell you how. I have strong opinions about this, and you probably do too. Let me tell you mine, and after the video, I want to hear from y'all whether you agree or disagree. Let me know if you think the gap has closed significantly between Harley Davidson versus Indian, whichever way you may think that that gap has actually closed, or maybe one company is actually outshining the other. Let me know your opinion, and of course, if you like what I do, consider subscribing. Let's go and get into it. Now, I really want to start all the way down at the bottom because a lot has changed over the past couple years with the two companies. Now Indian has rebranded, or reimagined I should say, their entire Scout lineup, which is their most popular motorcycle. So now you have 5 versions of the Scout, and with each one you can actually, add additional tech. You can add, limited features like cruise control, and also you can go with base versions too. And I just want to look at the base version compared to the cheapest Harley you can get, which is going to be the Nightster. The new improved Scout has a new motor, of course, 102 horsepower, which is pretty impressive considering that the new Road Glide and Street Glide are 105. And this bike weighs obviously a lot less. New technology, you get, the option of the ride command. This, of course, is going to be more money, but you get that option, cruise control and keyless ignition. And then, of course, you can still go with the keyed ignition too, which is in their base model. On the Harley side of things, you have, of course, the Nightster, which is the cheapest Harley you can buy now. What's really interesting is the cheapest Nightster is 12 grand. The Scout is 13 grand. That is a far cry from the Street Rod, right, which was $700 or $7,500, or an Iron 883, which was, $8,000, $8,500. Sportster 48. I mean, basically the whole Sportster lineup was like 10 grand or less. And while you can go with the Scout 60 from Indian, that one is really showing its age now too because of the new Scout lineup, and you're not even going to get close to the numbers that you will out of the Nightster if you were to go with the Scout 60. That's a fine motorcycle, by the way, but I'm just saying it's more dated now. But you can still get the Scout 60, which is going to come in at like $10,500 is like the minimum price you can get that bike at. So technically the barrier to entry is going to be less with Indian. You're going to get more options through Indian too, especially in this lightweight cruiser market, because that's their flagship model and that's the one they want to have the most options for. Whether it's the 101, the Bobber, the Rogue, or just the Classic, you're going to have a ton of different options here in styling, options, motor, technology, much more so than what you will have with the Nightster or even the Sportster S, which is much more money. It's more comparable to the Scout 101. So I've been working on something very quietly behind the scenes over the past couple weeks to bring both of my communities here on YouTube a lot more value and actually bring the two together while also keeping them separate. So what I've been working on is called Headshot Nation, and basically this brings motorcycles and guns together in one platform, but we have separate areas for them. So if you just want to watch one type of content over the other, or if you want to watch both, you can do that. If you have a motorcycle request, a review comparison you want done, a gun request you want done, if you want to watch courses, something really easy that I can do that I know about, for instance, how to shoot a pistol, how to clean one, rifles, all this kind of stuff that YouTube frowns upon, we can put it on our own site. All the parts I review on the channel for motorcycles, how to install those. Really easy stuff that I can bring to y'all, but gives you a lot more content, plus early access to everything you see here and behind the scenes stuff too. And you can support me directly, whether that's going to different motorcycle rallies or going to different events on the gun side or guns for comparisons that you want to see. Cameras, computers, all of that kind of stuff as well. But if you simply want to support more of what I do, this is a really easy way to do it. So what I did is I said, hey, screw it. Let's do a 30-day free trial, so it costs you nothing but a few seconds to set it up. Click the link in the description of this video, set it up. Within 30 days, if you're like, dude, I don't like it, I'm gonna cancel, boom. It doesn't cost you anything but a couple of seconds. If you do like it, it's $9.97 a month after that. I think that is a super awesome value, plus it gives you a ton more value in return. So if you like what I do and want to support that further, this is an awesome way to do it that brings both motorcycle and gun reviews and everything else associated with that all together in one space. Click the link in the description, and yes, there's also an app to go along with it. Now, when it comes to this division of motorcycles, I have always kind of preferred the Scout lineup because of their variety, especially something like the Road, right? Where I can get a lighter weight motorcycle with really good power, really good torque, and now I can get it with more features, and it's going to be a lot more comfortable. You know, forward controls instead of mids. I can get the, mini apes on there, and overall, I think it is a better motorcycle. I get more options, and I find it more comfortable straight off the factory floor. And if you're more into the bobber scene or the classics, you're just going to have more options with the Indian than what you'll find with Harley Davidson, which is really bizarre considering how popular the Sportster has been for so long, and now you're limited basically to the Nightster, Nightster Special, and the Sportster S. Now I'm interested to get these two bikes on the road and compare them side by side, because it looks like, first of all, the exhaust from the Nightster and even the Special to the new Scout series, it looks like both of these were designed in the same exact factory. They took the same plans, same styling, everything, made some very slight modifications to each, and that was it. The biggest difference I see with the exhaust, of course, is the routing. Routing looks much better, much cleaner on the Harley. It also looks like it will help to keep a lot of that heat off of the rider better than what it does on the Scout, but this is really kind of hard to say one way or the other without riding them back to back. Either way, barrier to entry, a little bit cheaper on the Indian technically, but both motorcycles, if we're going to compare the newest Sportster to the newest Scout, the Scout's actually going to be more money. Now here's one thing I want to touch on briefly, that's dealer support. Harley has more dealers in the United States, period. Indian has strategically placed those dealers, and so you'll find a heavy dose from both companies really on the East Coast and of course in the Midwest. You'll find a lot of dealers of course in places like California, Texas, all of that, and then there's going to be areas in the country up in the Northwest, where it's not going to be as heavily populated with some of these dealers. One thing you want to keep in mind though, when you look at a map of Harley dealers, they also include, generally anyways, the outlet stores that just sell merchandise. So what I'm looking at is, from a rider's perspective is, hey, I want to take a trip from, North Carolina to Texas or North Carolina to wherever, if I have an issue on the road, most likely you're going to be able to find, whether it's a Harley dealer or just an independent shop that's going to be able to work on that bike. Now, of course, the newer the motorcycle, the better chance you're going to want to actually take that to a dealer. So while you're going to have more support for Harley, I don't know that you're going to have too much issue with Indian either, just because of where those dealers are placed. They are very close to Harley Davidson. So I feel like the support is pretty good for Indian, but you're going to want to plan this stuff out if you're taking a longer road trip. With Harley, yeah, you'll probably want to plan it out, but there's most likely going to be a dealer anywhere you go, at least in major cities, major riding areas. There's going to be a Harley there for you. And at the very least, if something does happen on the road, you're going to find one of those Harley outlet shops and be able to buy a new t-shirt while you wait on a tow truck. So that's pretty good. Either way, support overall is going to be better for Harley. Now, aftermarket parts. This is something that I think, it's really, I'd be really quick to say Harley Davidson has more support. This is true. Now, of course, anytime you introduce a newer model, you're going to have issues getting parts, no matter who the company is. But overall, you're going to find better aftermarket support through Harley Davidson. Now, what about options from each one of the companies as far as the types of bikes that you're going to get? So if we look at Indian, right, they have their baggers, their Challenger, their Elite, their Roadmaster, right? Different levels of comfort and torque packs and engines, right? You got a 108 Power Plus over here. You may have the 116 Thunderstroke over here. Harley Davidson, Road Glide, Street Glide, Ultra Limited, Road Glide Limited, their CVO series, you know, CVO Road Glide ST, and that is their lineup. Both manufacturers offer bikes up to $44,000 on the Harley side, and right at I think $41,000 or $40,000 on the Indian side, right? So yes, you can buy motorcycles that are that expensive in each one of the lineups. Coming on down into the Softail lineup, of course, with Indian, you know, you have your Super Chief and, you know, different versions of that, and then, of course, your Springfield. With Harley, you got your Fat Boy, your Fat Bob, Lowrider S, Lowrider ST, Heritage, and some others in the lineup. I mean, they have a huge Softail selection now to choose from, with a variety of different styling. So if you want something more chopper-esque, custom type of look straight from the factory, you know, you have something like the Breakout, right, which is a really cool motorcycle, especially when you're going in a straight line. You know, if you want something sportier, right, you want to be a little bit more aggressive, or you want to go in the twisties or whatever, you know, you got the Lowrider ST. If you want to be an old man like myself and be super comfortable with a Softail, that's where the Heritage steps in. And then on the flip side, you have the Sport Chief, which is equal to kind of like your Lowrider, your Lowrider ST. Maybe even comparable with the Fat Bob, but that is a really cool motorcycle from Indian. One I think is even cooler is actually the Super Chief. In my opinion, if I were to buy a secondary bike, mid-frame, Softail size, if you will, the Super Chief Limited would definitely be in that conversation. And so while Harley offers a bigger variety in the Softail lineup, Indian covers your kind of cruiser or touring type of Softail, if you will, and also the sportier Softail. And then, of course, they have the Springfield, which is counter to the Road King Special. They're kind of like my least favorite motorcycles almost in this entire conversation, if I'm being honest. If you own one, great, awesome, I hope you love it. They're just not for me, but both companies offer that as well. So, fantastic selection when it comes to the mid-weight cruisers. And then, of course, we've already talked about the Scout and the Sportster series. What about some of the oddballs, though, right? You have the FTR in the Indian lineup. And I think this bike was projected to do better than what it actually has. I don't have, you know, sales numbers on it, but I know that they've never reached the level of expectation like they were hoping for. And I've ridden the FTR. Look, it's a cool motorcycle, right? If you want a really comfortable, sport-like American sporty motorcycle. It's like a sporty cruiser. It's not really a sport bike, and I think that's one of the things that hurts it. If they would have come out with a straight up sport bike, they may have done even better, you know. So I don't know. It's just kind of a really weird motorcycle. It's not like an off-road motorcycle. It's not a dual sport. It's just like a sporty cruiser, I guess, is kind of the best way I have of putting it. And I really appreciate the idea. I think they were thinking outside the box. They wanted to do something different. It's just, I don't know. It's not really that impressive in any one area. Then you have bikes on the Harley side, like the Pan America. Now, I had heard that they were going to come out with a model that was actually going to be cheaper, so people could get into them, you know, as opposed to the 1250, you'd have like a 750 or whatever. But they actually went the opposite direction. Now they have the CVO Pan America, which is a beautiful motorcycle. coming in like $28,000. So I think it's actually it was better priced than what I thought it would initially be. Still, entry level on those is going to be like 20 grand. Okay, but for Harley to be even close to competitive in that market is really impressive. For them to just come up with this model, and not saying that they just, oh, out of thin air, there's the Pan America. That's kind of how it seemed, but obviously a lot of engineering and everything went into it, a lot of money, R&D, whatever. Still, it's an impressive motorcycle. It's one of those bikes that truly can do it all. It's kind of like what the FTR could be if it really wanted to, but it's not. You know, that's, I guess that's the best way I can describe it. Where the FTR is definitely more road ready. The Pan America can obviously take longer trips with the adjustable windshield. It just has a lot of great features. It's one of the best overall motorcycles, or do-it-all motorcycles, that Harley actually has, in my opinion. And the motor is insanely powerful with, of course, a lot of torque too. So it's actually a pretty fantastic bike. And then, of course, you know, Harley has the live wire, which is not even close to something that I would ever consider buying, especially right now. But they have it. Obviously, sales numbers show that people just aren't that into the motorcycles. Whatever gets you on two wheels, though, I could care less if you're on an electric bike or anything else. It's just not for me. And it's obvious that a lot of people feel the same way. They have that option, though, right? They've kind of jump-started. Even though they've lost a lot of money on it, they still are in that market, and they've been doing it for a number of years. Indian 2 has electric bikes, but they're actually bicycles. I actually rode the Hooligan, and that's a pretty freaking cool bike. I mean, it's like a $3,500 bike, but still, at the same time, the thing is freaking cool. That's all I can say about it. Still, the whole electric thing, not really for me. And then the infamous Bronx, right, from Harley Davidson, which is something we're probably never going to see at this point. Just the way it is. I don't think we're really ever going to see that motorcycle. So I think if maybe we give our hopes up on that, and we just say, okay, it's not going to happen, maybe then it will happen, right? So we just kind of say, okay, not going to happen. You know, I hate it when companies do that, when they bring an idea to the table. They even give a year when it's probably going to come out, and then they never deliver. Change in CEOs at Harley, change in mindsets, and hey, that's what happens sometimes. Talk about the financial side here really quick, because with Harley, pretty much anybody can get approved. If you are breathing currently, you have somewhat of a pulse, and maybe even proof of income. I don't even think you need proof of income, to be quite honest with you. You can get approved through Harley Davidson. I'm sure scores as low as probably 550 can get you a motorcycle with interest rates that will probably be north of 20%. It's like one of those things when you buy through Eagle Services or Eagle Bank or whatever they call it. If you end up getting approved through them, which you will, most likely, I'm just saying, not a guarantee, but the probability is high. The first thing you want to consider is that doesn't mean your credit's good. It doesn't mean you're on the right track, because they'll approve almost anybody. But also, it's one of those things where you want to get out of that as quickly as possible and refi, you know, with your own bank or a credit union or something else. Seriously, they can almost approve anybody, and that's the truth. But you have that option. So if you want to get into a motorcycle and you need to finance it, and not all of their loans are north of 20%, by the way. I'm just saying, dependent upon your credit, the term, you know, they lengthen these terms out, you know, 6 years, 7 years now, I think. So you always have that option through Harley. You also have the option of buying used bikes and actually getting financed through Harley now too. They have somewhat of a Harley Craigslist, right? So all of these options are on a bigger scale with Harley Davidson. Now, another area where the companies have actually grown closer is in the technology that you'll find on motorcycles. Now, understand when I talk about rider aids, right? Because I made a short on this, and there was a lot of people that disagreed, and that's totally fine, by the way. I mean, you can have whatever opinion you want to, right? But rider aids are good in an emergency and preparation or road conditions or mindset or target fixation or any number of things happened, you screwed up, you may have things on your motorcycle that can actually save you from locking up the rear tire, for instance, or going down in a corner, or any number of things, right? So that is not a replacement, though, for training, right? Practicing emergency stops and all that kind of stuff. I preface all this because one thing I want to mention is that all of your new Harleys now come with all of these rider aids, right? So not only ABS and traction control, but cornering ABS, cornering traction control, hill hold control, everything, TPMS, all included, drag torque control too, by the way, all included on the new motorcycles. It's already built into the price. And then on the other side, you have like the base Challenger, which is $26,500, which of course is going to come, chrome, but then it's going to come with power windshield, the Power Plus motor, which is actually, like best in class as far as a bagger straight from the factory, torque and horsepower. Power Plus is actually an impressive motor, right? So you're going to get all of that, but if you want to get like Smart Lean technology, which is very similar to what you will find with RDRS, which is standard now on the Road and Street Glide, you go up to $31,000. And of course, that's going to come, blacked out too, and the quick locking bags. So when you look at the pricing of a Challenger Dark Horse, which is basically $31,000, and then we compare that to a new Road Glide with blacked out pipes and whiskey fire, right? It's set up just like mine. You had $1,350 plus $750, so you're going to be at $2,100 plus $26, of course. So you're going to be right over, just a little bit over $28,000. That's assuming that the dealership you go to is charging MSRP. I understand, I've heard a lot of y'all say that you can't find a dealer that actually charges MSRP. The only thing I can tell you is I went to Orlando Harley, talked to my boy Billy, tell him I sent you, see what he can do for you. That's the only thing I can tell you. Hopefully that will help you out. But just comparing MSRP to MSRP, that's kind of where we're at. So before, where Harleys, I mean, they're just a year ago, I mean, their Road Glide specials and their Fast Johnnies and all of these bikes were more expensive right out of the gate, and that did not include RDRS. RDRS was an option, $1,200 or $1,300 option at that. So the gap has closed significantly. We've actually gone the opposite way with Indian, and the other way with Harley, down in price. It's just kind of mind-boggling, right? So that's where we're at with those baggers, right? And that's kind of the heart and soul of Harley Davidson, really, along, of course, with their Softail lineup, which is super iconic too. And so while they've gone away from traditional Sportsters, they've upgraded the lineup, they're now more expensive, they've actually gone down a little bit when it comes to their baggers. And they've kind of done a better job of keeping up with the times. Where it was slam bagger look and stretch bags and all that kind of stuff a couple years ago, now it's more performance bagger. Now I fully expect Indian is going to take a big leap into the coming year, 2025, with their baggers, specifically the Chieftain and the Challenger. I expect these bikes to have a complete overhaul, but as of right now, in mid-2024, that's kind of where we're at with it. So overall, would I recommend Harley or Indian? So in years past, in my opinion, Indian has actually offered a pretty awesome value, considering you had the adjustable windshield, you had the quick locking bags, you had the Smart Lean technology, all of that. But now they've increased their prices, and while you still get all of that, as you can see, it's, $3,000 higher than the equal Harley Davidson. Of course, that plays a part into it. Now, you don't get the quick locking bags on the regular Road or Street Glide. It's still not an option. I wish it was, but it's not. So that is one thing in Indian's favor. The adjustable windshield is nice. Will that make a difference in me purchasing that over the Harley? No. And even though the motor is more powerful, more horsepower, more torque, I still prefer the design elements a little bit more on the Harley Davidson. And I get to save some money this year too, which is one of the reasons why I bought one of the new 24 Road Glides. I love the way Harley Davidsons look. I like their fairing better. I like their new lights better now on the road and the street glide. I think the fairing, I think I already said that, but the fairing looks better on both models, street and road glide, compared to Chieftain and Challenger. Just looks a little bit cleaner, not as bubbly. I like the motor design, right? That V-twin, just everything looks really good about it. While I appreciate the Power Plus and the power delivery and them kind of thinking outside of the box, giving you somewhat of a look of a traditional V-twin while still giving you, power and what a liquid cooled motor can do compared to air and oil cooled or air and water cooled. It's an impressive motor. It's an impressive bike when you get on one. Really, I think that's probably the best thing you can do is honestly go to a Harley dealer, go to an Indian dealer. If they won't let you ride them, I say don't do business with them. That's just me. They let you ride them back to back, take a little bit of time. That may be the biggest factor for you, right? Because even though Harley dealer support's better, we've kind of talked about that. If you plan your trip out just a little bit more, Indian shouldn't be a problem if you have a problem on the road. Aftermarket support. Way more Harley parts available, right? Way cheaper in a lot of instances, but you can still get aftermarket parts for Indian. They're not catching up, but they're slowly starting to add more to their inventory, and other manufacturers, including aftermarket, are starting to offer more for Indians. So you have a lot of things where Indians, starting to close the gap there, but it's just a matter of just time at this point, and Indian continuing to evolve along with Harley Davidson. Overall, when it comes to not only styling, but tradition, culture, and just a love for the brand, I'm Harley Davidson. That's just what I like. And I have a deep appreciation for the company, how they started, what they went through, how they helped us, win 2 world wars, and everything that happened with motorcycle clubs and counterculture and Sturgis and all this kind of stuff built into it. Harley Davidson has been at the center of it here in the United States. And that to me is just, it's hard to beat. So that's kind of where I'm at with it, man. But I don't hate Indian. If you're familiar with my channel, you know that. You've seen my Indian reviews. And there's been times where I've picked Indian over Harley. It's few and far between, but one thing I always try to do is be objective when I look at motorcycles when I'm comparing them. And I really like Indian, but I love Harley. That's where I'm at with it. I'd love to hear your opinion, though. Do you think the gap has closed? Do you think because of price increases and stuff, has that hurt either one of the brands, in your opinion, or maybe even kept you from buying a Harley or Indian? Make sure you leave your opinion, no matter what it is, down below. And again, if you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold 'em down.